Hey there, it's another beautiful day. For those of you that celebrated, I hope you had a wonderful and safe Independence Day. I am so sorry for the delay today. We had issues with the dogs and fireworks, and this morning the phone has been ringing off the hook. It's been one thing after another, which I'm not terribly complaining about. I'm just apologizing for. But now, I finally got my coffee, and I am ready. So let's watch some stuff. I was actually looking up bioelectricity when this came up, and I guess it is kind of a form of biological electricity, right? And it is super fantastic. I'd never heard of anything like this before, and check this one out too. And it explains a little bit about what it is. So data sonification. And apparently there's like these little like things that you can buy and you just hook them up to your plant and it reads like the crap that's going on inside of the plant. That is so cool and absolutely beautiful. Hey, thanks so much for stopping by today. If you wouldn't mind doing me a huge favor and hitting that like button, it'll really help out my channel. And if this is the kind of content that you enjoy, please consider subscribing and then come back tomorrow because I'm making a new video every day.
Idaho tried to ban irrigators for farmers to use, both in groundwater irrigators and surface water irrigators, but they've now completed a deal with the state to save 330,000 acres of Idaho farmland that could have created an economic crisis for the state. A mitigation agreement for 2024, brokered by Governor Brad Little and Lieutenant Governor Scott Bedke, has been signed by all parties and submitted to the Idaho Department of Water Resources for approval. Once approved, the IDWR will lift restrictions for all 9 groundwater districts that are used for irrigation from the Eastern Snake Plain Aquifer. This agreement now allows farmers to continue growing crops in 2024, but does not fix the underlying issues with Idaho's management of that water aquifer.
This is what I was talking about yesterday with the Idaho water issue. It was originally said it was 500,000 acres that were curtailed, and this only states that 330,000 acres are like finalized as far as an agreement. What I think is crazy is that the governor just freaking bowed out with that. And he's like, no, you guys have to talk with these people. And he did nothing. I think he has more power than, he's portraying to have as far as that water is concerned, because I think the whole cobalt mining thing, right? He's got to be like, oh yeah, that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. Go ahead, take the water. That's where my brain sits anyway.
Music is magic. It reprograms your subconscious mind. This is why you remember the lyrics, because it's stored within your subconscious. 90% of your behavior is manifested from the programs within your subconscious. Listening to negative music, you are programming your subconscious mind to manifest negativity. Music is frequency, and frequency is the only thing that can go inside of you without your consent, affecting your cells and your water structure no matter what. Saying positive things has a positive effect on your cells and water. Saying negative things has a negative effect. Music changes your intent, emotional state, and thoughts. This is why you become sad when you listen to a slow beat song. We're not meant to be listening to music with choruses. Repetitive beats and loops within music create thought loops within your mind. In nature, everything is transforming. There is no chorus within nature. Our mind should be constantly evoluting.
It said our brains need to be constantly evaluated, but that's not what he said. That is really cool, how music does affect your brain in lots of ways, and your emotions. And to say how frequency is the only thing that can enter your body without your permission, That's profound because it is true. Whether you want it to or not, you are constantly, being bombarded with frequency and constantly bombarding others with your frequency. But I think the message about music is really cool. It does store itself in your subconscious and you remember these things.
Share with you what I call our premier life sentence. And it goes something like this. We awake each morning and go off during the weekdays to earn the living at various jobs and undertakings until we come to the weekend. And this seems perfectly acceptable to most people. However, more people die between 6 and 9 on a Monday morning than any other time of the week. So I do what I call a translation of the English language, and I spell that Trance with the idea that words cast spells. So when you translate that life sentence, you remember that awake is a funeral party for the morning is the state you're in when you attend a wake. And you would have to be in a weekdays to earn the living, since urns are for the ashes of the dead. We call our jobs undertakings. Job itself is a Hebrew word for persecuted. And what we get at the end of this perverse bargain with life is the weak end of the deal as we become progressively weakened ourselves. And so our most prevalent greeting to each other is hello, the reverse of which is oh hell. And at first, I suspected the hands of collusion entangling the language to foster illusion. And I think it's quite true that a culture's theology has a great deal to do with a word's etymology.
That was a lot. That was a lot of playing with words. And I can see how it can be perceived as spell-like, because if you pick out the right words and you say them in a certain way, then all you have to do is change your tone in certain places, put the emphasis on a different syllable, and then you've got a completely different meaning. But then she said the opposite of hello is oh hell. No, it's not. It's more like oh lech. So it's ole more than oh hell. But I found another one that does playing with words by Revival of Wisdom. I'm going to see if I can find it again and throw it in here somewhere just because I like playing with words. I don't want to say that that's not aliens, but I have been to Las Vegas at night. And that's what it looks like when you're driving into the city. There's the Luxor with their huge, light beaming up, and then that's probably just ambient light from the city on some fog. That's what I think.
There's no way on earth that 63% of Liverpool's squad is legitimately asthmatic. I'm pretty on board with this one. I don't really understand what they're doing. They've found some kind of loophole, clearly. Are giving some kind of medication which helps with respiration, I believe, which during the Klopp era, they literally had that Geiger press, which they didn't run out of energy. There was something going on there.
I'm not even sure what I was searching when I came up with this video, but it totally piqued my curiosity.
I have another conspiracy. There's a stat that says that 20% of the UK population has asthma. So if you look at the current Liverpool squad, out of 23, I think 21 or 20 of them have asthma.
Listed as having asthma.
So there's a conspiracy that goes around that if you have asthma, there's a special drug you can take which helps your lung capacity, which helps you breathe better. And essentially, if you look at the Liverpool squad, they're like one of the fittest teams.
Stamina.
So they can run the most.
The way that Liverpool play, you need to run a lot.
Like they play a very high intensive, high pressing game. So you need to be able to run a lot.
That should be an attribute in FIFA 22. Asthma. It boosts your pace by like +2, but it's hidden. You can't see it.
The most common treatment for asthma is albuterol, and that's just an inhaler, and it does open up the bronchial passages and make the little cilia a little, more able to absorb oxygen. So maybe that is how they were able to run faster and harder and not gas out, because they had that extra burst of oxygen to their muscles and everything. That is a very interesting conspiracy. I realize that it was a little old. If you know how that turned out, did anything come of it? Please let me know.
So this is a normal flatworm, and what's cool about it is that you can rip its tail off, and from its tail, it will grow another head. But then if you cut the worm here and take this piece and soak it in an antibiotic solution for a few hours, you end up with a worm with 2 heads. And this works because heads or tails isn't controlled by genetics, it's actually controlled by electricity and voltage potential at the wound. And it turns out if you apply a specific type of alcohol to the wound, it permanently changes the voltages and it will repeatedly make the 2-headed worm no matter how many times it's cut. But that's not all you can do with bioelectricity. Typically, frogs don't have the ability to regenerate limbs, but progesterone is a neurosteroid that can also regulate bioelectricity. Now, without progesterone, this is what the limb looks like over a few months. But when you add the progesterone and it regulates the bioelectricity, it starts to grow back its paddles. Anyways, this is just some of the research that was behind the xenobot, which is the synthetic organism made from frog embryos. And I think this is really cool because it was all done by manipulating bioelectricity and we didn't even have to edit any genes.
I originally started pulling videos for this episode, searching for bioelectricity. And I know I had a little detour, but we got back to it, and this is what I had found. I didn't watch the whole thing. I just watched the part about the flatworms, which I thought was super cool. But to know that they could alter a frog and help them grow back their legs and stuff like that, that's fantastic. I mean, I know they're probably trying to help humans grow back limbs using this kind of technology. I don't know yet. I've never heard of xenobots. That's a completely new word to me. If you've never heard of xenobots too, we're about to find out about them because I need to know what xenobots are.
We produce something called a xenobot. At the simplest level, a xenobot is what happens when you take some skin off of an early frog embryo and you ask them, well, what do you want to do now that you're not being controlled by these other cells? And what they do is self-assemble into this round little thing, which we call a xenobot, that starts to move around on its own. It rows against the water and against the bottom of the petri dish that they're sitting on, but it also does things like spontaneously turn around. Another example, one of the amazing things that they can do is they do something called kinematic self-replication. If you provide them with loose material, so basically loose skin cells in their vicinity, what they do is they run around and they collect those materials into little piles, and they sort of shape the little piles and make a little snowball out of them. That little ball matures into the next generation of xenobot. And guess what it starts to do? It does exactly the same thing. It runs around collecting more cells and makes the next generation of xenobot. None of this was obvious at all from what we know about frogs and tadpoles and their genome. And so we're just scratching the surface now of what they're capable of.
All right, so this guy called them xenobots, which I'm going to go with instead of xenobots because he sounds like he was probably, involved in creating these things. That's insane. They created them from something else. What do they become? Do they mature? Do they grow? Do they split? What happens? Is that all that they are? Is there these little xenobots that keep making these things? That's how it regrows stuff with that skin cell. So they probably are trying to grow back human limbs. Wow. Science is crazy.
Bless means bless you. Appreciate is appreciate. Awake means awake, which is an event where the family gather together before a funeral. Mourning is an expression of sorrow for someone's Job is Hebrew for prosecution. You are taught to specifically say the vowels in this order, where the last 3 words say I-O-U, because they are programming you to remain a slave. Every word you say is shaping your mind, and your mind is a mirror of your external world. This is why abracadabra means I create when I speak. The words I am can be used to direct vibrational frequencies into your morphogenetic field, and have the ability to change your genes. When you use the word the, you're referring to God to bring it into existence. Because the comes from theo, which is Greek for God. The weekend is when you're weakened from the weekdays, when you're in a daze, when you are in physical shock or unable to think or react properly. Your parents are a pair who rents. They want you to think slaughter is laughter.
I don't necessarily agree with all of those plays on words as fact, but I understand how a lot of them can be turned that way. It's like business, busyness, right? When you're doing your business. Your busyness, I don't know. One thing I can't get over is comfortable. So why would it be come for table? Come for table. But you're comfortable. It's a little different. Tables don't sound very comfortable, do they?
Deep beneath the streets of Edinburgh lies the mystery of Gilmerton Cove, a subterranean labyrinth that has left historians and archaeologists puzzled. Records of Gilmerton Cove first date back to the early 18th century, but its true origins remain a mystery. There are several theories about its purpose, from a refuge for persecuted religious groups to an ancient drinking den. But if you think that's intriguing, in 2017, a groundbreaking discovery added another layer to the mystery. Scientists from the University of St. Andrews and the University of Edinburgh embarked on a cutting-edge research project. Using advanced ground-penetrating radar, they delved deeper into the secrets of Gilmerton Cove, and their findings were astonishing. The radar scans indicated that the network of underground tunnels and chambers was far more extensive than was originally thought, with more chambers waiting to be discovered.
How frickin' cool. That is super cool. It's like history, uncovering new stuff, and there's these tunnels being found all over the place, and they are just ancient, like beyond ancient, like previous advanced civilizations ancient. Or if we don't want to go that far, maybe even the Tartarian Empire. It's fantastic. I love that we're learning so much more about our history.
Sac is implanted into the base of the neck, and all of your information, like where you're from, all your experiences, your emotion, who you know, are downloaded onto a DHF called Digital Human Freight. The DHF can then be transferred into one of our organically made sleeves of your choice, and you can basically have your conscious mind but in a different physical body. So our sleeves typically last 1 to 100 years. We do different facial features, different body structures, anything you like. The sleeve can do any physical function that you can do, like run, eat, sleep, breathe, burn, drown, anything you can think of, the sleeve can do.
I absolutely love how many of these videos that I have found, and people are like, oh no, they're making clones and they're trying to put us in these fake bodies and all this other stuff. And it was totally fake. It was just a huge, display put on by Netflix for a sci-fi series that they had coming out. And I believe this was in like 2018. And a lot of these videos that I'm finding are like recent. People are looking at them going, oh my goodness, like it's brand new news. No, it's been out for a little while and it's completely fake. Although it wouldn't surprise me if this was happening like in the back rooms or the underbelly, right? So on that note, I'm going to call it for today. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. Come on back tomorrow. We're going to watch some new stuff. I'll say different things and it's going to be fantastic. Until then, have a wonderful day.